Welcome to Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. I'm your host, Nick Giffen, predictive analyst here at Action Network. And joining me, as always, my co-host, Stephen Young of Roto Grinders, better known as Stevie TPFL. And this week, we're talking bets for the Toyota Save Mart 350 at Sonoma Raceway here on Running Hot. Last weekend, Kyle Busch claimed his third checkered flag of the season, marking the most wins he's had in a Cup season since 2019, 4 years ago. He finished ahead of Denny Hamlin, who was in second, former teammate Denny Hamlin, and Joey Logano in third place. But Stevie, I really want to talk about the Kyle Busch renaissance, man. What do you make of it? How many more wins do you think he can get? And what are his championship prospects?
Yeah, I mean, what was his win total? 1.5. We talked about it on the preseason show. Hope you got that.
Yeah.
We're not even halfway through the season. He's at 3 wins. So, I mean, when Kyle's racing this well, I think he has to be in the conversation for a championship favorite, not even just like a Final Four favorite. And I mean, he keeps doing this. He's going to keep racking up playoff points. And, guys like Chase Elliott, they're falling way behind playoff point wise. I think Chase wins and gets into the playoffs for what it's worth. Eventually, I think that team's too good to miss the playoffs. And, we look at the caliber of drivers that already qualified for the playoffs. Technically, I guess we could get more than 16 winners, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Kyle he's so good. RCR has speed. This like RCR Hendrick like collaboration with the engine stuff, like, I mean, we all knew it was going to be a good year for Kyle. I thought it was going to be a good year for Kyle, but I didn't think we'd be talking about him having his third win already this season.
Yeah, I didn't think we'd be talking about him having 3 wins before halfway mark of the whole season. So, yeah, I think that's pretty good. I mean, Tyler Reddick had 3 wins last year in that car, and Kyle Busch has done that in half the season. So that is extremely impressive. And I do think you have to keep him in the championship conversation, especially just because he already has all those playoff points now. So that's going to be a boost just through getting a few of those rounds. So definitely in the championship conversation for me. And historically, Phoenix has been a pretty good track for him, which of course, Phoenix Raceway is where the championship race will be. So certainly don't count out Kyle Busch. Any last thoughts on the racing at Gateway? I know there's a lot of mixed response this week.
Thought it was good. I don't think you want to really say it was a bad race. I think that maybe we get a tire that falls off a little bit more because tires meant absolutely nothing. And I feel like that's why a lot of people were like, oh, the race wasn't good. But honestly, the race was good. Like, there was a lot of good racing, a more fall off tire and the non-brake issues. But I think, the brake issues are going to happen. Like, you have a racetrack that we haven't run a lot. This is only the second time that we've ever run a Cup race there. And they're going to figure it out. So I'm not too concerned about the brake issues. It doesn't even sound like the teams are too concerned about the brake issues from everything that I've heard this week. So I thought the racing was good. It's a multi-groove racetrack. We get a little bit more tire fall off there with a different tire. And we're going to see a lot more passing. So I think that overall I liked it. I think Gateway should stay on the schedule. I just hope that if it does stay on the schedule, we get a little bit more tire fall off at different tire. Like, it shouldn't have been the same tire that we brought there from Richmond and stuff like that, because, it just didn't produce any tire fall off. And honestly, the fast cars were fast. And I mean, that's what we want, right? Like, on the betting and fantasy side of things, like, we want to be able to predict the fast cars. And, we were able to do that this week.
Yeah, exactly. And, I agree with you. I thought the race was really good, actually. Was it the best race of the year? No, not even close, but it was a good race. And I think this is 2 years in a row. Gateway's produced some very good racing. Like you, I'm not concerned about the brake issues. I actually think, not that I think it's good that NASCAR, or we have a race where there's brake issues, but, it's just kind of the old classic NASCAR feel where, a little bit of attrition due to mechanicals or this, that, or the other. I like that stuff. We don't want all these cars to always be pristine for every race and have no problems, at least in my opinion. So yeah, I thought it was a good race. It was hard to pass up front, but in the mid pack, even closer to the front, inside the top 10, you could pass. It was just once you got to those top 2 or 3 spots, it became pretty difficult. And I think, like you said, with a different tire that'll wear a little bit more, this could be a spectacular race. But I thought the racing very good at Gateway. But This week, we are headed to Sonoma Raceway for our second road course race of the year. Sonoma is a 12-turn, 1.99, almost 2-mile road course. But it is quite different from the first road course we raced at this year, Circuit of the Americas, aka COTA, which is almost a 3.5-mile, 3.426 miles in length, that road course there. Overall, hits some faster speeds, has some longer straightaways, and it has a much younger surface age, track age, right? It was, it was 2011 is when COTA was born, essentially. So that's the age of the surface there is about 11, 12 years, but Sonoma hasn't been repaved since 2000. So we're going to have more tire wear here at Sonoma on a tighter course. So Stevie, what do you think we are expecting this weekend at Sonoma? Remember, no more stage breaks as well in terms of the yellow flag cautions. We'll still get the points, but no more yellow flags. So what are we expecting at Sonoma?
Well, I don't think we'll see a bunch of turn one dive bombs and bumper cars that we saw at COTA. COTA, it was so good for like the first 75% of the race, and then it just turned into chaos. But I think Sonoma is one of my favorite road courses, and I mean, for years we had Sonoma and Watkins Glen, and no offense to a lot of the road courses we race, I think we should get rid of the Charlotte Roval. I think the Charlotte Oval with this car would be fantastic. Go back to the Brickyard, and leave like 3 or 4 road courses on the schedule. But Sonoma is my favorite road course. It's such a good road course. It's a road course where we have a lot of data to look at, not as much with the new car, but enough where I feel really good about coming into the race. So I like Sonoma. I think it's going to be a good road course race. No stage breaks is huge. This might be a race we see like 2 or 3 cautions. This isn't a very high caution racetrack in general. So taking away the stage breaks, like I think if you could predict the cars that are going to be fast, you're going to have a really good day.
Absolutely. Totally agree with you. I think, I think we can see 1 or 2, Sonoma's been known to have 1 or 2 cautions here or there, but I agree. It's not going to be too many cautions in this race. And like you, and I love Sonoma, the classic Sonoma, Watkins Glen, like you were saying, I always looked forward to those races because the only 2 times all year we got to do it. Now we do it like 6 or 7 times or whatever it is a year. And it's not that it's watered down, but it doesn't have the like excitement of like, we're going road course racing because, it was just a little bit different back before we added all these extra road courses. So I'm with you. I love Sonoma, and I'm excited for a good race. And like you said, I think the fast car is going to be fast, and I think we're going to be able to see that, and that really helps without those stage cautions. Now, we're still going to get the stage points, so there still could be some strategy. We saw a little bit of that at Circuit of the Americas. I'm not sure how much that's going to change necessarily at Sonoma, but I think it's going to be fast cars are fast, and we'll have to see how that plays out. But the other thing is, of course, this is using the low downforce package. We used it at COTA. We've used it at the 1 mile and less short tracks that weren't Dover or Bristol Dirt. But we've got this low downforce package, which we did not have last year at Sonoma. Does that change anything for you for this weekend's race?
Yes and no. I think Sonoma with the tire wear is so unique that I think if you were good here last year, I think you're going to be solid this year. That's how I'm approaching it anyway. So I hope that's the case. I think that you can look at a lot of like speed metrics. You don't want to really look at like finishing position from COTA, like who was fast at COTA, not who finished well, because like I said, there was so much chaos at the end of that race that like finishing positions outside of Tyler Reddick was the fastest car in that race. So, outside of him, there was a lot of drivers that, I mean, Suarez was really good. He finished, I think, like 25th or 26th, 27th, something like that. William Byron was really good. And like Kyle Busch kind of roughed him up on a restart and he finished like 5th or 6th. So I think, yes, it changes a little bit, but with the tire wear and managing tires on a road course, like, give me my road course guys. Like, give me the guys that have been fast on road courses. And I think those are the guys, downforce or not, we're going to be looking at because of the tire wear.
Yeah, I agree with that too, for the most part. Good road course guys are going to be good road course guys. I do worry a little bit about the Fords, and this is kind of my manufacturer angle, just because we know they had that changed nose, which reduces the downforce. And you definitely need some grip and some downforce through some of these corners, especially the higher speed ones in some of those S's. But then, you add in the fact that you got the low downforce package with the new nose, and it's really taken away the downforce from the Ford. So I wonder if they're going to be slipping a little more, maybe abusing those tires a little bit more at the highest tire wear road course. So I've bet some Fords. I bet Harvick 40-1 when he opened, at one of the books where I live. And it's one of those things. I have no problem betting a Ford if there's very clear value, but if it's smaller value where I would normally bet them, I'll probably end up passing. So I need very clear value for me to want to bet a Ford this week, at least until we see tire wear in practice, because we did get some 5 and 10 lap runs in practice last year. So if we get a couple of Fords making some 5 or 10 lap runs, and we really get to see what their speed is like and their fall off is like, then I'll feel more comfortable. But at least early week, midweek, I'm not really going to jump at the Fords unless there's some very clear value. But I do have one Ford in my picks this week. So with that said, how are we handicapping the drivers? I know you mentioned some things at COTA. You mentioned, good road course drivers, but what does that mean? What is a good road course driver? What are we looking for?
Yeah, I mean, looking at we've run 7 races with this new car on road courses, so I'll be looking at a lot of that data. I think you can look at old Sonoma data as well, especially like probably last 4 or 5 years, really kind of comping that tire wear. So I think overall, we still want to look at this car's numbers, because I mean, if we look back at some of the races here towards the end, like Martin Truex Jr. dominated some races. Kyle Larson absolutely dominated the 2021 race. Like he's had speed before on road courses, but like that was more Hendrick setup car than it was Kyle Larson, dominating the race. So, you have to be somewhat careful because, I mean, for years there, it was just, hey, we're going to a road course. Let's bet Martin Truex Jr. and Chase Elliott because they dominated everything. So I think you still want to look more at this car, maybe look at a little bit of who's done well here in the past. But I think when I'm looking at it, I'm going to be looking at a lot of the 7 races that we've run on road courses so far.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think there is a little bit more specificity, I don't know if that's the right word, to Sonoma track history, specifically than full road course. Obviously, I'm taking all road courses into account, but I do think there's a very specific Sonoma style that certain drivers have, and I will be looking for that. And when I have a metric called a driver quality metric, and I'm going to be relying on that for specific Sonoma track driver quality as well, because there are certain drivers that are just good at Sonoma, maybe better at Sonoma than they are at some of the other road courses. And then there's others that are worse at Sonoma than they are at some of the other road courses, even if they are good at other road courses. Tyler Reddick comes to mind, for example. He hasn't been great at Sonoma so far in his career. We'll have to see how that, of course, plays out. It's not a huge sample size, but that's one of the things I'm kind of keeping in the back of my mind. And again, just on that whole tire wear thing, I was crunching some numbers from COTA and looking last year at the Fords, right? Like COTA is kind of a lower medium tire wear of the road courses. Last year, the Fords, we had Austin Cindric 4th in green flag speed. We had Cole Custer 9th. And then we had Chase Briscoe 15th as the top 3 Fords. Well, this year, Chase Briscoe fell down to 21st. Austin Cindric was out. He was 9th, so he fell down 5 spots. And then Cole Custer, well, he got replaced by Ryan Preece, but the only other Ford up there this year was Michael McDowell in 10th, whereas last year Michael McDowell was down at 31st at this track. So it does seem like the Fords took maybe just a small step back this year compared to where they were last year at COTA. I am a little worried it's going to be maybe a little bit bigger step back this year, but that's one of those things. Like I said, I'm just going to wait for practice on these Fords to really assess what I think of their speed and especially their tire wear. But that is going to do it now for the Sonoma preview. So it is time to dive into some bets. As always, we're going to take you for a lap around Sonoma. Now, I know this is a 12-turn track, but we don't got time for 24 picks here between me and Stevie. So we are going to do our 4 turns as usual. 1 pick for Stevie and 1 pick for myself per turn before we drive into victory lane. So Stevie, we're going to take that green flag, and after the green flag into turn 1 is another left-hander, kind of like we see on all the ovals. So time to take the green flag. All right, Stevie, start us off with your turn 1 pick.
First of all, if people want us to do 24 picks at a road course next year, they need to get a lot of likes and downloads.
Right.
And we'll do it. I mean, it'd be a marathon podcast, be like 3 hours long, but we'll do it.
Absolutely.
My turn 1 pick, all joking aside, I'm going to go to a Ford just for Nick. Chris Buescher, top 10, minus 112 here. I mean, he was the fastest car here last year. So even if they fall off a little bit, and we're looking at him going from the fastest car to maybe like the 7th or 8th fastest car, I still like his top 10 odds here. 6 top 10 finishes and 7 road courses with the new car. Like, that is an insane rank. He's obviously has one of the best average finishes. He ranks 6th in speed in those 7 races. I like this all the way to like minus 125. I think this is going to move a lot throughout the week and throughout the weekend, especially when we get practice. Like, I think he's going to be a guy that qualifies well, and he's someone that if he qualifies inside the top 10, this probably moves to like minus 125 to minus 140. So I know I hear what you're saying with the Fords, and I hear you, especially looking at like the COTA data, but I'm still looking at Chris Buescher and how consistent he is, how good they are calling these races for him. And at a track with tire wear, strategy is going to come into play too, and they've been on point when it comes to strategy. So Chris Buescher, top 10, minus 112 is my turn 1 pick.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty hard to argue with 6 top 10 finishes in the 7 road course races run with this car for a minus 112 price. And, I actually technically do show pretty close to what you have there at minus 112 as my top 10 price on Chris Buescher. But again, I'm just personally, and it's cool that we're different this week because, it gives us a couple different perspectives. I'm just mentally knocking him down a little bit. So I'm not going to take that myself, but I definitely understand why you're taking Chris Buescher top 10 minus 112. For my turn 1 pick, I'm going to look at 2 of the race favorites here. I'm going to look at Kyle Larson versus Tyler Reddick, and I'm going to back Kyle Larson at anything even money or longer. My model has Larson favored here over Reddick. And I just think I would also favor Larson personally over Reddick simply because we talked about how this has been Reddick's worst road course. So if we look at my track quality metric, he's at minus 15% compared to what he does at an average track for him, whereas Larson is up in the positive around 6-7%. Just because Larson's so good at many places, it doesn't pop out as best track, but the fact that he's very good at Sonoma, that says a lot. Plus, Larson's been on pole 5 straight times here. 4 of them have come on speed. One of them came on the metric after the COVID era started, where they're setting the lineup by metric, but 4 of them have been on speed. So if I want to grab Kyle Larson, I want to grab him before we see qualifying. The other thing, of course, now Reddick is with the Toyota camp, and the Toyota camp really struggled here last year. This was their worst track by far last year of the road courses. I think it had to do with that tire where it kind of fooled me last year when I looked at practice. I was like, oh, they had some good 10-lap times. I remember Kyle Busch and even Bubba Wallace had some solid 10-lap times, but man, their fall off was brutal here, and it just really hurt them after a handful of laps, 5-10 laps. They really struggled. So if they haven't picked that up this year, and again, I know obviously Tyler Reddick won at COTA, but Tyler Reddick is really good at the higher speed. Some of these higher speed road courses, COTA is bigger. It can be high speed in a lot of places, Road America, things like of that nature. This particular track hasn't necessarily suited him as well. So even if he's a leap ahead of maybe the other Toyotas, I still think it's a step back just because this is not necessarily his best road course track so far. So I'm going to take Kyle Larson over Tyler Reddick. Anything even or plus money here?
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at what Reddick did last year at Watkins Glen too, he kind of struggled at both of the traditional road courses. You mentioned how the speed road courses were the ones that, I mean, you look at, he ranked top 5 in speed in almost every single one of those. The Roval, COTA, Indy Road Course, Road America. He was one of the best, if not the best car at all of those racetracks. He really struggled at Watkins Glen. He really struggled at Sonoma. He was the 2nd fastest at COTA last year, and then was 18th fastest at Sonoma, or 17th fastest at Sonoma. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I don't hate this. Larson's not my favorite road course racer, but like you said, track position is going to be something that's really important without the stage cautions and all that strategy coming into play. So if Larson is able to continue his streak of dominating the qualifying here, he's such a huge favorite in qualifying betting. It's so wild.
Yeah, exactly. And, Kyle Larson has won here at Sonoma. He won in 2021. Last year, he started on the pole, and he and Chase Elliott were both really good, but they both bit themselves with strategy and other mistakes. And not themselves necessarily as the drivers, but the team bit them with some mistakes and some strategy and stuff like that. But we don't have those stage issues to worry about this time. So I do like that bet on Kyle Larson. So that is turn one. Time to take the next right-hander into turn two. All right, Stevie, lead us into turn two here.
Yeah, I'm going back to a Ford. I think that there's just too much value on this one this week. Michael McDowell, top 10, plus 110. Like, Michael McDowell, we talked about him for years on like how good he is at like high braking racetracks and how good he is at road courses, and the equipment's just kind of failed him. Well, that hasn't been the case with the new car, right? He's ranked inside the top 5 in speed with the 7 road courses with the new car, ranked 3rd in speed last year at Sonoma. I worry about the tire wear with the Fords. I agree with you on that, but I also realize that Michael McDowell is really good at managing his equipment in general. So average finish 11.7 or 11.0 in the 7 road courses with the new car. I mean, this is a guy that I really want to target without these stage breaks, because I think he is someone that if we do run like full fuel runs to really kind of maximize strategy, he's really good at managing his equipment. So Michael McDowell, top 10, plus 110 is my turn 2 pick.
Yeah, I agree with all that. He's super good at managing his equipment, and got me a 11-1 last week, top 10 finish there just by hanging on to those various 2-tire strategies that he was doing. So that was pretty nice, just grabbing that track position and managing, his restarts and taking some nice lines there. So I think he can do that here. And he is also my turn 2 pick. I'm going a little different though. I got him to win his group at plus 280, and he's facing some heavy hitters, but those are heavy hitters at a lot of the other tracks: Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr., and Denny Hamlin. And of those 3, only Martin Truex Jr. has a positive driver quality at Sonoma. So Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano, over their last 4 incident-free Sonoma races, they actually are at minus 9.5% and minus 14.8% for Logano in driver quality at Sonoma, whereas Truex is positive 18%, but Michael McDowell is positive 24%. So then, we say, well, it's a Ford. Well, yeah, Joey Logano is also a Ford. And then Truex and Hamlin and Toyotas, which had, like I talked about, the issues last year, could potentially still have some tire wear issues this year at Sonoma. So I like this because I'm not facing a Chevy here with Michael McDowell. So eliminating those Chevys, which I'm really high on this week, I have no problem backing Michael McDowell plus 280 for all the reasons you said as well, Stevie.
I mean, if we just look at speed with the road course with this new car, I mean, he should be the favorite in this group. Logano ranks 21st, Hamlin ranks 22nd, and Truex ranks 15th. And Michael McDowell, like I mentioned when I was just talking about him, top 5 in speed. So I love this one. I might tail this one. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so that is turn 2, and now it's time to head into turn 3. All right, what do you got for us in turn 3, Stevie?
Okay, this wasn't on purpose. I promise this was not on purpose. Austin Cindric is 20-1 at BetMGM. We love BetMGM. And listen, I really didn't do this on purpose. Me and Nick, we chatted a little bit before, but I didn't put 3 Fords in a row. Just know my 4th pick is not a Ford. Top 5 in speed with the new car on road courses as well. He's another guy that I think is going to benefit from the stage break. He's a really good road course racer. This is the type of racing that he grew up on. Obviously, if you know who his dad is, this is the type of racing that we know Austin Cindric is good at. Look at what he did in the Xfinity Series and the road courses. 2nd best average finish, 3rd highest driver rating in those 7 races, highest quality pass percentage in the 7 road courses. He has been a guy that has been bit by strategy and bad pit stops and all that stuff at these road courses, but the speed is there. Now we're taking away the stage breaks and losing that part of the race. And I think he's someone, even if we looked at COTA, was running in the top 5 a lot. He was one of, if not the best Ford in that race. So I think 20-1 is just nice value. I think that if he struggles in practice and he comes in at like 25, 26, 27, I probably double down on it. But I'm very high on Austin Cindric this week.
Yeah, he was, in terms of green flag speed, he was the fastest Ford at COTA. And you mentioned quality there. Well, my driver quality metric, number 1 in driver quality at Sonoma, Austin Cindric. So this is a very good track for him. I'm not saying he's the best driver, like the guy that should be favored, just in terms of how he compares to the rest of his tracks. He is number 1 among all drivers. So I could get behind that. I think I'm going to wait for practice to get behind that. And if, the speed's there and the fall off isn't as high, I will be definitely telling you on this one. For my turn 3 pick, this is a fun one. So if you look at the top Toyotas, Tyler Reddick is minus 240. And then the other 5 Toyotas, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs, and Bubba Wallace. I'm going to back all of them. And you can size this right to where Bell's plus 550, Truex is plus 650, Hamlin 7-1, Gibbs 8-1, Bubba Wallace 9-1. You can size it right so where you can spend 1 unit total, and if any of them finish top Toyota, you profit. I think you make like 0.6 units if you use like an arbitrage calculator, as long as Reddick doesn't win this one. And given what I talked about with Reddick, this being his worst road course, and Truex, Hamlin, Gibbs, all really good road course races. You could, if you want, leave Bubba Wallace off of this. I wouldn't hate that by any means, because he is even worse than Tyler Reddick in terms of the driver quality metric here. And that gives you a little bit of extra potential profitability as well, as long as one of the other 4 hit Bell, Truex, Hamlin, or Gibbs. So that's what I'm going to do here. My turn 3 pick is backing the Toyota field versus Tyler Reddick. What do you think?
I mean, I don't think it's the craziest thing, right? Because it's technically 5 drivers against 1. We've seen Ty Gibbs, and he's someone that has really excelled at road courses in his career. Kind of out of nowhere, we didn't expect him to come out and win his first ever race on a road course, and he did. So I don't know if I'd leave Bubba Wallace off. I think I would include him and just take the 5 drivers against 1, profit if it hits. And Wallace was actually, if we look at the metrics from COTA, he was probably the second best Toyota in that race. So, hey, having Tyler Reddick as a teammate might benefit a guy like Bubba Wallace, who, and he's talked about it a lot. He has spent a lot of time trying to get better at road courses. So, yeah, he absolutely has. I don't think you can leave Bubba off. I think you go for what you originally thought. Take all the Toyota drivers against Reddick.
Yeah, and you can spend 1 unit to make 0.6 units approximately with the arbitrage calculator, which I believe you can find one at Action Network. So that is turn 3. Stevie, lead us into turn 4. All right, what do you got?
All right, like you, I'm pretty high on the Chevys as well. So Daniel Suarez 16-1, won this race last year. Crazy that he's 16-1 here. He ranked 2nd in speed in that race last year. Ranked 2nd in speed at COTA earlier this year as well, before all the chaos happened at the end of the race. 3rd in speed in road courses with the new car. Best driver rating at Sonoma and Watkins Glen last season. And overall, I mean, I really thought this would come in at like 10-1. So I think this line is going to be one that moves in the favor of the books. So I want to jump on this one early, 16-1. Daniel Suarez, a guy that he's kind of the opposite. He hasn't been as good at the high speed road courses, but the technical ones, we've seen a lot of good racing from Suarez, and obviously a guy that I think is going to be pretty pumped up coming back to Sonoma after winning last year.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is a value. My model has it as pretty thin value here. I have him about plus 1450 as fair value. I know some of the other math modelers, NASCAR modelers that, I know and respect, have value on this as well. So definitely could get behind that Daniel Suarez, especially because he's in the Chevy. So maybe I'm a little bit extra. Maybe I'll end up tailing this one as well. For my turn 4 pick, I'm going to stay in the Chevy camp. I already tracked this in the Action Network app at much longer odds, but I still like Austin Dillon's top 10 at 5.5-1 plus 550. You still have it just, too long here in terms of the price, which is good for us as bettors, because I have him right around 19-20% to finish inside the top 10, finished 11th here last year. Like Bubba Wallace, he's made a lot of progress over the years at road course racing and has gotten a lot better. So of the road courses, this is, not a bad track for him at all. So just going to take turn 4, make it the Chevy turn, Stevie.
Yeah, I don't hate this one. I think that getting it at plus 550 makes me feel a little bit better, but really benefited last year from having Reddick as a teammate and, really excelled. The guy that really struggled at road courses early in his career, and we saw a huge difference last year. So hopefully he can take what he learned last year and apply it. And I don't think this is crazy.
Yeah, so that is it for turns at Sonoma, but we still got to drive all the way around the track and take the checkered flag. So Stevie, what is our victory lane pick here?
Yeah, I mean, so we're going back to the Chevys. AJ Allmendinger, top 5, plus 250. Like this one a lot. This is one that I'm definitely jumping on here early in the week. AJ is a guy that is just really good at road courses. Struggled at Sonoma last year because of some issues, but overall, this is a guy that has had a ton of speed. He showed a ton of speed at COTA. Now we're getting full-time AJ Allmendinger, and after he dominates the Xfinity race on Saturday and gets some track time, he's going to come out and he's going to dominate this race. So AJ top 5 and getting it at plus 250 is something I really like here.
Yeah, I like it as well. And he's the only other one that we haven't mentioned yet in the top 5 of my driver quality metric. You mentioned Cindric, Buescher, Suarez, and McDowell. We have bets on all of those between me and you. AJ Allmendinger is the other one. So we are backing him as our victory lane pick. One more, a little thing we got to do here, Stevie, real quick. Who do you got? Denny Hamlin Bracket Challenge Finals. Brad Keselowski versus William Byron.
I don't even think it's remotely close. Give me William Byron.
Yeah, I don't think it's close either. Certainly Brad had a good race here last year. But again, I'm just so high on Chevy. So William Byron, it is for me. We're both taking Byron to win the Denny Hamlin first edition of the Denny Hamlin Bracket Challenge. Hopefully there'll be a monetary incentive award for the drivers next year, but that remains to be seen. But that is going to do it for us. Thank you for listening to the Toyota Save Mart 350 episode of Running Hot, Action Network's motorsports betting podcast. We'll be back this time next week to talk about bets for the Ally 400 at Nashville. On behalf of my co-host, Stephen Young, thanks again for listening, and we'll see you back here next week on Running Hot from Action Network.